Welcome to another video. We've been discussing relevant costs this chapter, and we've said that relevant costs are costs that differ among alternatives, and irrelevant costs do not. We've introduced some terminology such as sunk costs, which are always irrelevant costs because they've happened. We had an opportunity to make a decision, we made it, we've incurred that cost, and it is now sunk. So no bearing on future decisions, so sunk costs are irrelevant costs. Very, very important concept in business and in life. There's actually a thing called the sunk cost fallacy. We talked about opportunity costs, and those, you can watch the other videos, but those are always relevant. We talked about differential analysis, where we look at differing revenue streams among alternatives, and then compare those to what additional costs do we have to incur to get that. We've looked at special order pricing decisions, which is a huge, huge topic when it comes to relevant decision making. And we looked at make or buy, also known as outsourcing decisions. And the last thing that I'm going to cover in this particular chapter are what we call joint cost products and sell or process further decisions. So what we're talking about is a situation where we have a manufacturing process, and we start that process off, and we have one product that we could at that moment define, and that product is going to incur costs just like all products do. But here's the difference. At some point we get to a point in the production where we can alter the process. Okay, we can alter the process and get a different product. Okay, so that's what we talk about, a joint process, where we have multiple products that go through, at least initially, the same part of the production process. And then when we say, should we sell or process further, what we're talking about is at some point we have a finished product, and that product has a value. Okay. Now, we don't consider the cost that went into that product up to that point. Sure, if we decide to sell it at that point, we'll have sales revenue and we'll have the costs associated with it. But what we're talking about is maybe I'm making product A and I can incur some additional costs and get some additional revenue. Okay. Do I want to do that or not? That's going to be based, for the most part, on quantitative financial decisions. We also have to consider things like overall product demand and those types of things. We can't just always sell the most profitable product because sometimes we just don't have the demand for it. And but what we're going to focus on primarily is, should I incur the additional costs for the additional revenues or not? Okay, so let's get started here. Question number 29 says joint product costs are, and we've got some choices here. And what I want you to understand is what joint products are. So I'm going to circle the correct answer. If you want to wait for me and pause the video for a second, that's fine. And I'll assume that if you wanted to do that, you have now done so. The answer is D. It says two or more products simultaneously produced from a common set of inputs by a single process. So if we have two products and the way that we make them from the very, very beginning is completely different, then we do not have a joint process. This requires that step A, B, and who knows how many steps will be the same whether we're making product A, B, C, D, and so on. Okay, so that's the definition of a joint product. Most products, or at least a lot of products, are like this, and we can look at homogeneous products, such as oil that can be turned into kerosene or gasoline. It all starts off as crude oil, right? Or any other number of products. All right, question number 30 says, the point in the production process where joint products become separately identifiable is called, okay. All right, if you wanted to pause the screen, I'm assuming you're back. The split-off point. At the split-off point, technically they haven't become separately identifiable yet because we have to do something to them. But we say that these products split, and let's just say that this is product A, and it's going to stay in the current form. This is product B, and it's going to incur some additional costs that only product B incurs, and probably the revenues from that product are going to be higher as well. Hope so. Question 31, in deciding whether to sell a joint product or process it further, any costs incurred prior to the split-off point should be, okay, this is a very good question, so go ahead and pause if you need to. Okay, so read the question again. In deciding whether to sell a joint product for what we can get out of it now, or process it further and incur additional costs and hopefully higher revenues, any costs incurred prior to the split-off point should be considered as a sunk cost. And that's because we've already incurred those costs, and if we choose to sell that product at split-off, for example, we refine some oil and we go from having crude oil to refined oil, we incurred some cost to make that happen. So it doesn't matter if we sell that as refined oil or if we process it further into kerosene. All the costs that got us from crude to refined were going to occur anyway. Okay, and so we don't have to consider those costs. And we're going to have some examples of that in a question coming up. So hopefully that will drive that message home a little bit clearer. Yeah, let's see here what we've got. Let's see if we can fit this in. I think we can. So question 32 says, in deciding whether to sell a joint product or process it further, management should consider. Okay, now, I haven't read this one, so let's just look over it for a moment. Okay, so there's one correct answer here and three incorrect answers. Well, we just said in the previous question that costs incurred in the joint process are going to be incurred anyway. So any of these answer choices that uses the word joint, especially this one where it talks about only joint cost, are going to be wrong. What we're concerned about is separately identifiable costs of the product under consideration, and also we could expand that a little bit further and say the associated revenues that come with those costs. So 32, the answer is going to be C. C. Okay. Question 33 is a multiple choice question that requires some calculations, but it doesn't require a lot of calculations. So let's just go ahead and bring the calculator over here. It says Columbus Manufacturing Company produces products W, X, Y, and Z through a joint process. The joint costs amount to $250,000. And then it says here, if W is processed further, profits of W will. So we're not concerned about products X, Y, or Z. They make them, but the question doesn't ask for it. It just asks about W. So sales value at split off for product W is $10,000. Okay, that's what we can get for it as split off. If W is processed further, profits of W will. So here's what we have to do here. We have to recognize that we're going to incur $2,500 in cost. Okay. We also have to look at this column right here where it says sales value after processing is $15,000. Well, it was already worth $10,000. So what we're talking about here is an example of differential revenue. What is the difference? $5,000. Where did I get that? $15,000 is our sales value after processing, which, listen, if we can't get additional sales revenue, there's no reason to do more work, right? We're going to subtract out the $10,000 that we would have gotten anyway at the split off point, and that gives us $5,000. But it cost us $2,500 to get there, so we also have to subtract out the $2,500, and that's going to give us $2,500, and that's going to be an increase, and $2,500 is the only answer choice. So C is our answer. Question number 34, let's move this out of the way, is another multiple choice question that requires, oh, by the way, let me move back up here real quick. Notice joint cost amount to $250,000. We did not even remotely start to consider that in question 33, and that's because it's happened already. Doesn't matter what we do, right? Okay, just wanted to reiterate that. Okay, so question 34 says, Sunny Corporation sells 1,000 units of product A per day at $1 per unit. Okay, that's our sales revenue is $1. Sunny has the option of producing the product further for additional costs of $400 per day to produce product B, which sells for $1.45 per unit. Okay, so question says, if Sunny processes product A further to produce product B, the company's net income will. All right, so we know that they're selling these items for $1 each. How much do they have in these items? Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because that's a joint cost. Okay, so even if we had $1.20 in the production process, up to this point we were losing money, that's not going to change our answer. Okay, what we know is that we can get $1 for this item at the split off point. Okay, so we're making 1,000 units in a day, and we're going to incur an extra $400. So we're going to incur an extra 40 cents in costs. Okay, so keep that in mind. Extra 40 cents in costs, 1,000 units divided by $400. That's how we got there. But notice that our differential revenue is 45 cents. So, if we take that 45 cents and subtract 40 cents from it, we get a nickel, right? And that's not one of the answer choices. Oh, that's right. We have to multiply it by the 1,000. Of course, you bet. Here's our answer. Answer choice C. We're going to increase not revenues. We're going to increase net income by $50 per day. So be very careful when you answer these questions because if we change this question around a little bit, it says the company's revenue will, the answer would become D, right? But we're more interested in overall profit. So this is a better question. Net income, it will increase by $50 per day. All right, well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.